You know that feeling when the world just stops? Like your ears are full of cotton and you can hear your own heartbeat? That's exactly what happened when Sarah from HR slid that paper across her cheap office desk. A 60% pay cut right away. I just sat there, staring at the number, hoping it would magically change if I looked hard enough. 60 freaking percent. I didn't cry then, not in front of them. I actually smiled, a fake corporate robot smile, and said, "I'll need 24 hours to think about this offer," as if I hadn't just been completely gutted. The tears came later, in my car, a messy, ugly cry, mascara running everywhere, fogging up my windows. I sat in that parking garage for 45 minutes, just breaking. Because what do you do when the company you've given 9 years of your life to suddenly decides you're worth less than half of what they paid you yesterday? Sorry, I should introduce myself. I'm Sophia Rodriguez, 36, a single mom to an amazing 10-year-old boy named Leo. Up until that meeting, I was the Director of Client Solutions at Apex Innovations, located in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Even 3 years later, this is still hard to talk about. If you're watching this, could you just hit like or subscribe, or leave a comment telling me where you're watching from? I need to know I'm not just screaming into an empty room here, that someone else understands what it's like to have your entire life threatened in a quick 15-minute meeting. Anyway, Apex Innovations. I started there when it was just 20 people in a converted warehouse. The kind of startup where everyone truly believed they were changing the world, you know? We had the ping pong table, the free snacks, the happy hours, all those things that seem so important until they suddenly aren't. I was hired as a client manager, but I worked incredibly hard. I stayed late, came in on weekends, missed school events, put off vacations, all the things you're told not to do, but you do anyway because you're building something, because you truly believe in it. And I was good, really good. Within 3 years, I was managing our top 10 accounts, clients that brought in over 70% of our company's money. I knew their systems, their problems, their birthdays, even their kids' names. These weren't just accounts to me, they were relationships I had built personally. When Leo's dad decided fatherhood and marriage were holding him back and moved to Miami with a life coach named Ocean, yes, really, those client relationships became even more important. They weren't just my career, they were my safety net, my security. By year 5, I was promoted to director. I had a team of 8, I had company shares, I had a salary that meant I could afford our house payments and Leo's allergy medications without having to choose between food and electricity. For the first time since the divorce, I could finally breathe. Then, Global Tech Corporation bought us. I can still remember the company-wide meeting. David Chen, our founder, standing on that small stage in the cafeteria, telling us how exciting this new chapter would be, how Global Tech's resources would help us grow our vision. Everyone was clapping like seals while I sat there wondering why David couldn't look any of us in the eye. $3 million. That's what I found out later he got from the sale. $3 million, and his shares were fully paid out. The rest of us, our shares were worth next to nothing, with 4 more years to earn them under the new rules. The first 6 months weren't terrible. New email signatures, new ways of doing things, more meetings, but I still had my team, my clients, my salary. Then the redundancy assessment started. First, they came for the newer employees, then middle management. Each time, there was a company-wide email about making things simpler and working better together. Each time, someone's desk would be empty the next day. No goodbyes, just gone. I kept my head down, worked even harder. My team shrank from 8 to 3, but our client workload didn't decrease. If anything, it got worse. I was working 70-hour weeks, answering emails at 3 a.m., having panic attacks in the bathroom between meetings. Leo started asking why I was always on my laptop, why I couldn't come to his soccer games, why I looked so tired all the time. And still, I thought I was safe. I was managing the relationships that brought in most of our money. They needed me. That's what I told myself, right up until Sarah from HR scheduled that quick chat. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in and saw Mark Jenkins from Global Tech sitting there. Mark, with his perfectly white teeth and his fancy watch that he made sure everyone noticed. Mark, who had been sent from corporate to improve the company after the purchase. Sophia, he said, he never called me Soph, we've been looking at the company structure, and we feel there's a chance to adjust your pay to match what others are getting in the market. Market standards, like I was just a product. Sarah slid the paper across. The new salary was right there in bold, $52,000, down from $130,000. This shows the changing nature of your role, Mark said, as if he were telling me I'd won a prize. We're moving most client management to our main office. You'll be moving to more of a regional support position. Translation, we're taking your clients, your power, and most of your paycheck, but we still need you to do the work. You'll keep your current duties during the changeover, of course, he added. Of course. We need your decision by tomorrow, Sarah said, not looking me in the eye. If this new arrangement doesn't work for you, we understand, but we'll need to immediately start looking for someone who fits our new structure. Someone cheaper, she meant. Someone desperate. They knew I was a single mom. They knew about Leo's medical needs. They knew about my house payments. This wasn't a discussion. It was a done deal. I need 24 hours, I said, my voice steady despite the screaming in my head. I have some questions about the transition plan and who I'll report to. Mark nodded, pleased with my calm behavior. Sarah looked relieved that I wasn't making a scene. I don't remember walking back to my desk. I don't remember packing up my laptop. I just remember sitting in my car, shaking, wondering how I was going to tell Leo we might lose our house. That's when my phone rang. Chloe Davis, an old colleague who had left Apex Innovations 6 months earlier. I almost didn't answer, but then I thought, what the heck? Maybe she was just calling to catch up. Maybe I could pretend for 5 minutes that my life wasn't falling apart. Hey, stranger, I said, trying to sound normal. Sophia, she said, I've been trying to reach you all week. Have you checked your LinkedIn messages? I hadn't. I'd been too busy keeping clients happy, keeping my team from quitting, keeping everything from falling apart.
Listen, Chloe said, I'm at Innovate Solutions now. You know they're Global Tech's biggest competitor, right? My boss has been asking about you a lot. We need someone with your client experience. Would you be open to a chat? I looked at the Global Tech building through my windshield, at the logo they'd replaced our original one with. I thought about Mark and his watch and his teeth. I thought about David Chen, who'd sold us out and disappeared to his beach house in Hawaii. Actually, I said, I think tonight would be perfect. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. I wasn't stupid. I knew what calling Global Tech's competitor would mean. There'd be no going back. But they'd already decided I was disposable. What did I owe them? When I got home, I paid the babysitter, checked on Leo, who was already asleep. I'd missed bedtime again. I opened my laptop. I spent an hour looking through my employment contract. No non-compete clause. Apex Innovations had been too small, too hopeful when I joined to bother with those. Global Tech had given new contracts to later hires, but they hadn't gotten around to us older employees yet. Their mistake. At 9:30 p.m., I called Chloe back. Can you set up a meeting with your boss tomorrow morning before I have to give Global Tech my answer about something really bad? How bad? She asked. Worse, I said. They're cutting my salary by 60%, but keeping all my duties, actually adding more. Chloe was quiet for a moment, then, yeah, give me 15 minutes, she said. I'm texting Michael right now. Michael Vance, the CEO of Innovate Solutions, Global Tech's biggest rival, and the company that had been trying to get our clients for years. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Sophia, this is Michael Vance from Innovate. Chloe tells me we need to meet first thing tomorrow. His voice was warm, direct, no corporate talk. Yes, I said, I think we might be able to help each other. I'm guessing Global Tech is finally doing their post-acquisition cleanup. Something like that. How does 7:30 a.m. sound? I can meet you at the downtown diner, away from both our offices. Chloe says you have a decision to make tomorrow. 7:30 works, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. After we hung up, I sat on my couch for a long time, staring at nothing. Was I really doing this? Was I really thinking about jumping ship to the competition? But it wasn't a ship anymore, was it? It was a sinking lifeboat, and Global Tech was throwing people overboard to save themselves. I opened my laptop again and pulled up my client files. Not the official company data, but my personal notes, 9 years of relationship details, who to call when contracts got stuck in legal, which tech directors were planning big system upgrades, which companies were unhappy with Global Tech's recent service changes. Information that wasn't secret exactly, but was very, very valuable. I'd built these relationships, I'd earned this knowledge, and tomorrow I was going to find out what it was worth. I closed my laptop again and checked on Leo again, watching him sleep for a few minutes, his little chest rising and falling, the inhaler on his nightstand, the science fair ribbon pinned to his bulletin board. "I'm going to fix this," I whispered. "I promise." I didn't sleep that night, not really. I lay awake thinking about what I was about to do, wondering if I was being too quick, wondering if I was being disloyal. But loyal to what? A company that no longer exists except as a line item on Global Tech's balance sheet? People who saw me as nothing but a number they could cut? By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to say to Michael Vance and to Mark Jenkins.
I dressed carefully. My best suit, the one I saved for closing big deals. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, my armor. I dropped Leo at school, hugged him extra tight, and told him I loved him. "You okay, Mom?" he asked, looking up at me with his serious little face. "I will be," I said, and for the first time in months, I believed it. The downtown diner was quiet at 7:30 a.m., just a few early risers with laptops and coffee mugs. Michael was easy to spot, tall, silver at the temples, dressed casually but expensively. Chloe sat beside him, gave me a small wave. I took a deep breath and walked over to their table. Sophia Rodriguez. Michael stood, offered his hand. "I've heard a lot about you. From Chloe, of course, and from just about every client we've tried and failed to get from Apex Innovations over the years." I smiled. "Well, those clients might be more open to conversations now." Michael's eyebrows raised. "Is that right? Why don't you sit down and tell me exactly what's happening over there?" So I did, all of it. The takeover, the change in company culture, the way they were destroying the company while expecting the same results, the impossible workloads, the pay cut. Michael listened without interrupting. When I finished, he glanced at Chloe, then back at me. "Sophia," he said, "we've been waiting for you to call us for a long time." That sentence hung in the air between us. I remember taking a sip of my coffee to buy myself a moment, because suddenly this wasn't just about saving my job. This was about something bigger. "What exactly does that mean?" I asked. Michael leaned forward. "It means we've tried to hire you 3 times over the past 2 years. Each time, your loyalty to Apex Innovations won out. But Global Tech doesn't deserve that loyalty, and frankly, we're prepared to make you an offer that shows exactly how much we value your relationships and expertise." He pushed a folder across the table. Inside was an offer letter. Director of Strategic Partnerships, $165,000 base salary, 25% annual bonus potential, health benefits that would cover Leo's medications completely, stock options. This is... I couldn't finish the sentence. "Fair market value for someone with your skills and client list," Michael said, "plus a signing bonus if you can start within 2 weeks. I stared at the number. It was $35,000 more than I'd been making at Apex, more than 3 times what Global Tech was offering me. "Why?" I asked. "Why this much?" Michael didn't hesitate. "Because we've lost 8 major contracts to Apex Innovations in the past 4 years, all accounts you managed. Because our research tells us that when clients work with you, their retention rate is 94%, compared to an industry average of 71%. Because I've personally had 3 tech directors tell me they stay with Apex because of you." He took a sip of his coffee. "You're not just an account manager, Sophia. You're a competitive advantage, one that Global Tech is too stupid to recognize." I felt something shift inside me. A lifetime of being underestimated, of working twice as hard for half the credit, of smiling through meetings where men repeated my ideas louder and got praised for them. And here was someone who actually saw my value. "There's one more thing," Chloe said quietly. "Tell her, Michael." Michael nodded. "We've heard rumors that Global Tech is planning to move all client services overseas within 8 months. They're using these pay cuts to push people out so they don't have to pay severance." My stomach dropped. How do you know that? Their new VP of Operations came from Tech Solutions. He did the same thing there 3 years ago. It's his usual plan. 8 months. They weren't just cutting my pay, they were getting rid of my job entirely. They just wanted me to train my replacement first.
I need to pick up my son from school at 3 p.m., I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. But I can come back to Innovate Solutions with you right now. I'd like to see the office before I make a final decision. Michael smiled. Of course, and we'd like you to meet the team. 3 hours later, I walked back into Global Tech's Regional Office 8 with a signed offer letter from Innovate Solutions in my bag and a plan forming in my mind. Mark was waiting in the conference room, looking impatient. Sarah sat beside him, a folder with my name on it in front of her. "Sophia," Mark said, not bothering to stand, "have you made your decision?" I sat down across from them, placed my hands flat on the table, and smiled. "I have some questions first," I said. Mark sighed dramatically. "We really need a simple yes or no today. As we explained, we're reorganizing the entire department." "I understand," I said, "but I manage our 10 largest accounts. I'd like to know who will be handling the Citicorp implementation next month and the Riverbend contract renewal in June." Mark waved his hand dismissively. "We'll distribute those responsibilities appropriately. That's not something you need to worry about." "Actually, I do worry about it. I promised Maria at Citicorp that I'd personally oversee their transition, and Tom at Riverbend specifically asked for my involvement in the renewal discussions." "Those are company relationships, not personal ones," Mark said, his voice hardening. "Now, about the offer." "Is it true you're moving client services overseas in 8 months?" I asked. The color drained from Mark's face. Sarah suddenly became very interested in her folder. "Where did you hear that?" Mark asked. "Is it true?" "That's confidential company information." "So that's a yes." I leaned forward. "Were you planning to tell me that before or after I accepted a 60% pay cut to train my replacement?" "This meeting is about your current offer, not hypothetical future restructuring," Mark said, his jaw tight. "Now, do you accept the new terms or not?" I took a deep breath, thought about Leo, about our house, about 9 years of my life. I quit. The words hung in the air between us. Mark blinked. "Excuse me?" "I quit, effective immediately." He recovered quickly, his face settling into a smug smile. "I'm afraid company policy requires 2 weeks' notice from director-level employees." "Check my contract," I said, "the original Apex Innovations contract that was never updated after the takeover. It states that notice periods are equivalent to severance periods. Since Apex never offered severance beyond 1 week, that's my required notice." The smile faltered. "You'll need to transition your accounts." "Actually, I don't. My contract also states that in the event of a pay reduction exceeding 15%, all transition requirements are waived." I stood up. "That was added after John Smith quit and tried to hold his clients hostage for a better severance package. You might not remember that since you weren't here, but I helped David draft that clause." Mark was turning an interesting shade of red. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. "You can't just walk out on your responsibilities," Mark sputtered. "Watch me." I turned to go, then paused at the door. "Oh, and I've accepted a position with Innovate Solutions. Since Apex Innovations never had a non-compete agreement and Global Tech never asked me to sign one, I'll be starting there on Monday." The explosion I expected didn't come. Instead, Mark's face went completely blank, which was somehow more terrifying. "You've just made a serious mistake," he said quietly. "We'll be reviewing all of your communications and client interactions. If we find even a hint that you've been taking clients or sharing company secrets, we'll bury you in lawsuits." I felt a chill, not because I'd done anything wrong, I hadn't, but because I knew how these things went. Big companies with deep pockets could make your life hell, even if you were completely innocent. "I haven't taken anything that doesn't belong to me," I said. "My client relationships, though, the trust I've built over 9 years, that belongs to me, and I'm taking it with me." Mark was turning an interesting shade of red. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. "You can't just walk out on your responsibilities," Mark sputtered. "Watch me."
I turned to go, then paused at the door. Oh, and I've accepted a position with Innovate Solutions. Since Apex Innovations never had a non-compete agreement and Global Tech never asked me to sign one, I'll be starting there on Monday. The explosion I expected didn't come. Instead, Mark's face went completely blank, which was somehow more terrifying. "You've just made a serious mistake," he said quietly. "We'll be reviewing all of your communications and client interactions. If we find even a hint that you've been taking clients or sharing company secrets, we'll bury you in lawsuits." I felt a chill, not because I'd done anything wrong, I hadn't, but because I knew how these things went. Big companies with deep pockets could make your life hell, even if you were completely innocent. "I haven't taken anything that doesn't belong to me," I said. "My client relationships, though, the trust I've built over 9 years, that belongs to me, and I'm taking it with me." I walked out before he could respond, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. My team was waiting at my desk. Lisa, Ben, and Kim, the last survivors of what had once been 8. They knew. Of course they knew. News travels fast in dying companies. "Is it true?" Kim asked. "You're leaving?" I nodded. "What about us?" Ben looked terrified. He had a baby on the way. "Check your emails in an hour," I said quietly. "All of you." I packed my desk quickly. Family photos, the stupid World's Best Boss mug my team had given me as a joke 2 Christmases ago, the emergency inhaler I kept for Leo. 9 years of my life fit into one cardboard box. Security escorted me out. Company policy for high-level departures, they said, like I was suddenly a threat, like I hadn't given almost a decade of my life to this place. I didn't cry this time. Not in the elevator, not in the lobby, not even in my car. Instead, I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. First, to Michael. "I've quit. They took it about as well as you'd expect. We'll have legal ready," he said. "Don't worry." Second, to my old boss, David Chen. He picked up on the 4th ring, sounding like he was on a beach somewhere. "Sophia, is everything okay?" "Not really, David. Global Tech just tried to cut my salary by 60%. I quit and took a job with Innovate Solutions." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, Sophia. The acquisition wasn't supposed to go like this." "But it did," I said. "And now they're threatening to sue me for accepting another job. A job that pays me what I'm actually worth." More silence. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to remind them that you never had non-competes at Apex Innovations because you said, and I quote, 'If we don't treat people well enough to make them want to stay, we deserve to lose them.'" David sighed. "I'll call Robert, Global Tech himself. This isn't right." My third call was to Maria West, CTO at Citicorp International, our biggest client, the client whose system implementation was scheduled for next month. "Maria, it's Sophia Rodriguez." "Sophia, I was just about to call you. We need to move up the timeline on the implementation by 2 weeks. The board—" "Maria," I interrupted gently, "I'm not with Apex Innovations anymore. As of today." The shock in her voice was clear. "What? Where are you going?" "Innovate Solutions, Michael Vance's company, our backup vendor." "Yes." There was a long pause. "Is this because of the Global Tech takeover? We've been worried about that ourselves. Service has been slipping." "It is. They're making major changes, including removing me from your account." Another pause. "Without telling us?" "Yes." "Who's taking over the implementation?" They wouldn't tell me. Maria said, "Snorts," and that's why I loved her. 20 years in tech had stripped away any corporate niceties. "This implementation is critical for us. The board is watching it personally. We specifically requested you in the contract." "I know, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Send me your new contact info at Innovate Solutions. We need to talk." By the time I picked Leo up from school, I'd received 14 text messages and 23 emails. 6 from my team, forwarding messages from Mark instructing them to keep clients happy and prepare transfer documents for all my accounts. 1 from David, confirming he'd spoken to Robert Global Tech directly. And the rest from clients who'd somehow already heard I was leaving. "Mom?" Leo climbed into the car, immediately sensing something was different. "Why are you picking me up? It's not Friday." I turned to look at him. This beautiful, serious little boy who deserved so much better than a mother who was always working, always stressed, always one bad month away from financial disaster. "I left my job today," I said simply. His eyes widened. The one you're always working at? The one that makes you cry sometimes when you think I'm asleep? My heart broke a little. Of course he'd noticed. Yeah, that one. Good, he said firmly. I didn't like how they treated you. Out of the mouths of babes.
I got a new job, I told him, one that pays better and will give me more time with you and better insurance for your asthma medications. He considered this. Will you be able to come to my science fair next month? Front row, I promised, with embarrassing signs and everything. He grinned. Cool. That night, after Leo was asleep, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Is this Sophia Rodriguez? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Yes, this is Robert Global Tech. I understand we have a situation. My blood ran cold. The founder and CEO of Global Tech Corporation calling me personally? Mr. Global Tech, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Yes, I suppose we do. David Chen called me. He's very upset about how you've been treated. I said nothing, waited. I've also received calls from Maria West at Citicorp and Tom Green at Riverbend Technologies, both expressing concern about your departure and hinting they may need to rethink their vendor relationships. Still, I waited. Ms. Rodriguez, are you actively encouraging our clients to follow you to innovate solutions? No, sir. I've simply informed them that I'm no longer with the company. They've drawn their own conclusions. Mark Jenkins tells a different story. Mark Jenkins offered me a 60% pay cut without any reduction in duties, didn't tell me the position was being eliminated in 8 months, and then threatened to sue me for accepting another job. So you'll forgive me if I don't put much stock in his version of events. Silence. Then, the pay cut and outsourcing plan were not approved by me or the executive committee, and yet they happened. Another silence. What would it take to bring you back to fix this situation? I almost laughed. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. Citicorp and Riverbend represent over $20 million in annual contracts. If they leave, others will follow. We've run the numbers. It would be much cheaper to keep you than to lose those accounts. Now I did laugh. So I'm worth keeping if it costs you millions to lose me, but not if it just makes my life impossible. Do you hear yourself, Mr. Global Tech? Business is business, Ms. Rodriguez. I'm trying to offer you an opportunity here. No, thank you. I've accepted a position with Innovate Solutions, one that values me appropriately from the start, not just when you realize how badly you've messed up. We're prepared to match their offer, plus a retention bonus. It's not about the money, I said, surprised to find I meant it. It's about respect. It's about 9 years of my life that your company dismissed without a thought. It's about the fact that you're calling me now, not because how I was treated was wrong, but because it's becoming expensive. What do you want then? He sounded genuinely confused. I want you to treat the people who are still there better than you treated me. I want you to look at what Mark Jenkins is doing to that office and ask yourself if that's really the company you want to build. That's it? That's all you want? That, and for you to stop threatening to sue me for taking a new job. I didn't steal anything. I didn't take anyone. I simply refused to be undervalued. There was a long pause. No lawsuit, he finally said. You have my word. As for the rest, I'll be visiting the regional office next week to see things for myself. 3 days later, I started at Innovate Solutions. They gave me a real office, not a cubicle. My team, yes, I got to build my own team, included Lisa and Ben, who'd quit Global Tech the day after I left. Kim stayed behind. Her visa was tied to her employment there. 2 weeks after that, Mark Jenkins was pursuing other opportunities. Sarah from HR, too. A month later, Maria West called to tell me Citicorp was moving their business to Innovate Solutions. The implementation team, they said, couldn't find their way out of a paper bag, she said, and when I complained, they told me my expectations were unrealistic. Tom Green from Riverbend followed 2 months after that. Then Green Valley Systems, then Quantum Corp. By the 6-month mark, 5 of my former top 10 clients had moved to Innovate Solutions. Not because I took them, I was extremely careful never to start those conversations, but because relationships matter, trust matters, and when you've spent years proving yourself, people notice when you're gone. Robert Global Tech kept his word. There was no lawsuit. There was, however, a complete reorganization of the regional office. The overseas move was quietly stopped. Salaries were adjusted to better match market standards. Too little, too late for many, including me.
It's been 3 years now. I'm still at Innovate Solutions, Executive Vice President of Client Success. I have a team of 22. I make more money than I ever thought possible. Most importantly, I make it home for dinner with Leo almost every night. I haven't missed a science fair or a soccer game in years. Last month, I ran into David Chen at a tech conference. He gave me a hug, told me he was proud of me, said leaving Apex Innovations was the best career move I could have made. I should have protected you all better, he said, looking genuinely regretful. I thought Global Tech would keep their promises. It's business, I said, echoing Robert Global Tech's words to me, nothing personal. But that's a lie, isn't it? It's always personal. Our work, our worth, our lives, they're deeply, intensely personal. Pretending otherwise is just a way for companies to treat people as if they're easily replaced. The real revenge wasn't the clients who followed me. It wasn't Mark getting fired or Global Tech losing millions. It wasn't even my beautiful new office or my big salary. The real revenge was discovering my own value, standing up and saying, no, I am worth more than this. I deserve better. And then going out and creating that better for myself. I think about that meeting with Sarah and Mark sometimes, that paper sliding across the desk, that moment when they thought they had all the power and I had none. They were wrong. We all have power. Sometimes we just need to be pushed to our breaking point before we realize it. So if you're watching this and you're in a job that doesn't value you, that treats you like you're lucky to be there when they're actually lucky to have you, know this. You have options. You have power. You have worth. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting back at anyone. It's about getting away and building something better, even if it takes just one phone call to change everything.